tools that we use as a teaching group, but mostly like SCORM. Just to let you know what SCORM is a shareable content object reference model. Obviously clears that up for you. But there it is, right down here at the bottom. So when you go into Canvas and you have that, and you're like, I don't know what that means, this is where you find all of the, where you're going to use SCORM in Canvas. So what SCORM actually is, other than a shareable content object reference model, it was actually, which I found out just the other day, it was developed by the Department of Defense, or at least the idea for it, back in 1999, because the federal government uses a lot of like e-learning tools, and they didn't want to be adherent to a specific vendor to develop these e-learning tools, so they wanted to make sure that all these things that they're getting from outside contractors work on their systems. So they needed all of these external tools to be able to talk to their systems, so they didn't have to, so you can have multiple things talking to a learning management system, but also that they could work among multiple different learning management systems. So like Learning or D2L, SCORM works in moderately well. Moodle, that should theoretically work in Canvas. So really what this is it's just a way for you to use some kind of external tool and get it to talk nicely to Canvas. And where it's important is where if you need to track, if it's an activity that someone needs to progress through and complete, they need to hit all of the slides, or if there's a quiz they need to do and they have to get a certain percentage, this allows that speaking back and forth to your gradebook, basically. So like I said, so you can track your user progress, you can talk to multiple learning management systems, and then you can use lots of different tools. So I'm going to talk about one specific tool that I use, but if you're using other external tools, it should theoretically, if it has SCORM capability in it, it should be able to talk to Canvas. Okay, so the external tool that I'm going to talk about is Articulate Storyline. And the reason what I wanted from this and why I wanted it to talk to Canvas is because it's really actually a cool tool. I like it a lot. We use it. We, in the anatomy group, I teach gross anatomy for the med school, we make a lot of like online lessons or activities that the students can use outside of class to study. And we found that Articulate was really nice because it has quizzing that's inside of it. It allows you to have some nice pictures. There's a lot of different tools you can use to make these enduring learning objects that we make for the med school. And so we have a lot of interactive modules and activities that we can do in class or out of class, and quizzes as well. And so this, when we went to the forward curriculum that we just transitioned into over these past 18 months at the med school, the IT people liked what we were making, and so they decided that they wanted to use more Articulate within their classes. So this is the little website that it goes to. I like Storyline just as a plug for it because it's easy to use. I know that Adobe Captivate is kind of a similar project where you can make interactive tools and stuff, but there's so much to do in Adobe Captivate. Like there's too many options, and Articulate's more like PowerPoint. Since I'm a lecturer, I know how to use PowerPoint, so it was an easy transition, right? So Captivate was a little bit too much for me, but if you use Captivate, you can certainly develop all kinds of modules through Captivate as well. So that was the pro. The con is that it's really expensive. So like Captivate's free, but I would suggest you try it for free. You get a 30-day free trial if you feel like it. You can make something and embed it into a Canvas course if you like that. I'll put in a plug for the blended learning things. I took one of the programs, the semester-long program a few years ago, and from the stipend I got, we were able to purchase this. So that's what I did. So the other thing, a slight con with this is that you're making a fixed object. So if you want it to be different, or you want it to be used across multiple classes or you want it to be used throughout different years, you'll have to go back and edit these external tools as you see fit, which is fine. I mean, our teaching evolves over time, right? So but you'll have to reload things into Canvas, but it doesn't take that long, so it's not a huge con. So again, Adobe Captivate is an alternate option, and on this website, SCORM.com, they have other authoring tools that you can find. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for, but they have just different, it takes you to websites that you can use to find different authoring tools. Some of them are just quizzing specific, some of them are more along the lines of class activities or videos. Alright, so this is just an example of some of the different things that we've made. So the nice thing with Articulate, you can have like fill in the blanks, you can have a lot of pictures, pictures can expand, you can have multiple choice, you can have multi-select, there's drag and drop type activities, which is my very favorite. There's hotspot activities, so you click on a part of a picture or maybe even a part of text if you are mostly text-based, if you're trying to ID a part of text. So that's just some of the fun stuff that we can do. So we have like our dissection instructions are all in this, so the students can use iPads in the lab, so it's a pretty powerful tool for doing on an iPad. So you can also embed a video into it, or you can put links to videos. We usually link out to Kaltura. We like to have everything in one place, so that's what we end up doing. And it allows for navigation throughout this tool along many different pathways that the student can use. You can make this as complicated as you like. It could be just 10 slides in a row and they just progress through, they just hit the next button each time. Or you can have huge branching trees where they have to answer a certain question to open up another area of the tool or of the activity. So it can get kind of crazy complicated if you wanted to. All right, and then the students, a nice thing about this is the students can use it as a study tool as well. So they can go back and quiz themselves and work through the activities again. All right, so what you would do, so back to SCORM. So once you create your activity, you need to load it into Canvas. And what you have to do first is you have to set up your external tool, or Articulate in this case, to talk. You have to tell it that it needs to talk to a learning management system. Because oftentimes you can publish these external tools for just a website, or you can make Word documents and you just print out the slides, but you have to specifically make it so it knows that it's going to a learning management system. And that's where the SCORM comes in. So you go in and you publish it, or whatever Adobe Captivate says, you go to the publish, and in there, it'll have options for you. So here, in the case of Articulate, you can publish it for the web, or specifically for their websites, for your LMS, for a CD, if you wanted to distribute a hard copy to people. You can do that, and also this Word where it's like literally just pictures of what you created on a page. And you have a bunch of different choices. So you choose LMS. You have a bunch of different choices, and there's SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004, this AIIT, and Tin Can. So what these are is this is just the computer language that is going to speak to the LMS and tell the LMS what you want to do. So there's lots of different versions of SCORM. It's kind of evolved over the past almost 20 years. The most current version for SCORM itself is this 2004 version, and these different levels of SCORM work better with different learning management systems, depending on how evolved they've made their quizzing.
So this is kind of like saving an image as a JPEG or a PNG or a GIF or...
Yeah. So you're just saving it a few different ways. The people who are developing SCORM have kind of moved on, and I don't know why they decided to change the name, but this Tin Can is kind of the newest version of this language to speak to an LMS. But I don't think Canvas supports the Tin Can yet. I haven't found it on there, so but it's just another way to make your external tool more powerful with the LMS. But SCORM 2004 is what you want for Canvas. Back when we were using D2L, we did 1.2. I actually, when we were using this, and we initially started using this in D2L, and it was not easy to figure out how to get an external tool into D2L. Josh Harder of the Academic Technology and I actually sat for 2 hours just trying to figure out how to upload a single file, which was terrible. But eventually we figured it out, and it kind of worked mostly, but it works a lot better in SCORM, or in Canvas. So we've made that evolution, which is nice. So Tincan is the new one that we don't use, but they might. We'll see what happens. So what you need to do is you have to figure out what you want your external tool to say to the Canvas, so that you can record the kind of data that you want to get out of this. So they have something called reporting and tracking, and basically what this does is it identifies, what you are going to be making. It'll give it a name, so it shows up in your gradebook. And you have to decide, okay, what is this activity going to be? Is it something where they just have to go through all the slides and complete them all? Is there a quiz associated with it? So do they need to pass it or just complete it? And then you have to figure out what that level of passing and completing is. So when you get into this tracking, like if you just want them to say that they've completed it, then if they have to get, through 2/3 of the slides, you say, all of the slides, so they have to get through all of the slides. Otherwise, it's gonna tell the grade book that they've either incomplete or they've failed. So I'll give them 0 points or even a percentage of points.
Is this a way to see if they watched all enough of a video as well?
Yeah. I don't know how a video would go in there, but it's gonna tell you that they have clicked through all of the slides.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you how much time they've spent on the slides. So they can click through all of the slides and just be done with it. But you can see that kind of those statistics in Canvas where how much time somebody has spent on a specific page when you go into their individual reports. So that's what this is going to do as far as just completing something. Another thing that you could have, it would be quiz results. So if you embed a quiz into your external tool, you can say that the pass line is 85%, and that will count as complete, like whatever percentage you want, or maybe they have to get 100%. And that is going to tell the LMS that they've passed it or failed it or completed it. And it will, in my experience, what it's done as far as when there's a quiz, it'll give them a percentage of whatever your total points are for however they did on the quiz. So the way I've used this is that I actually just wanted it to be a completion grade, so 5 points for the activity that they do over the weekend. And unfortunately, if they get like 80% on it, it'll be 4 points, so I have to go back in and change it to the full completion grade. But that's just kind of the way that we structure that assignment in the class. But if they wanted an exact grade, it would give them that exact grade. Okay, so so tracking, completing, and then you publish it, and you have to create a zip file for this because there's tons of different little tiny files that are way above my pay grade in computer type programming. That need to go into Canvas to be able to speak to Canvas. So then we get to the actual easy part. Uploading it to Canvas. So much easier than D2L. There was a multi-step process with naming files and all kinds of things, but D2L was terrible. It would take like 15 minutes to a half-hour load file. It was ridiculous. In the terms of Canvas, you go to the SCORM page, and yours will be blank, right? We have some stuff in it, but you go to the upload button. SCORM. Yep.
I don't have SCORM show up.
Oh, okay.
So
in your settings, you need to have it show up in there. So it's a button you can click.
Let me show you that.
But this upload once you get into that window, and you're gonna just go to the upload button and you upload your zip file. Very easy. And so it takes a minute or two, depending on the size of your file. And then it's going to take you all the way down to the bottom of the page. And if you have what we have in our sandbox, we now probably have close to 100 of these external tools, but so if you scroll all the way down, but there it is. And it's going to ask you whether you want this to be a graded assignment or whether you want it to be an ungraded assignment. So this would be an example of just getting them to click through all the slides, or a graded assignment would be a complete as opposed to a past assignment. The thing with this, the caveat here is that no matter whether this is a graded or an ungraded assignment, it's going to show up in your gradebook. So you're going to have a column in there for it, and the students might think that, oh, I need to complete this, but there's no grade associated with it. So that had caused a little confusion with us. You could probably mute the assignment so that it doesn't show up, but usually muted assignments show up as muted. So this is kind of one of my big problems with this. So once you choose that, you have to go in. What you're going to see is this is just a picture of what one of my problem sets that I had. And you're going to have to go in and edit the assignment for basically what you want it to do. In this case, this is a graded assignment. You don't have to edit any settings in an ungraded assignment at all because it'll, you actually shouldn't because you can mess it up, which I did. So you don't even need any new settings, but this is where you find it. You'll go in and it'll launch the little, sometimes you can have these launched in separate windows if you want, but if you have it launched within Canvas, this will show up next to where your speed grade usually shows up when you see an assignment that you create. And so when you edit those settings, you can give different points for what you want. It's best to put it in an assignment group. I don't know how you guys organize your assignments, but I really like organizing them in groups. The problem with this is that when you have an assignment, and this is probably just a Canvas thing, this is an assignment, it's not a quiz. Okay, so you can't stop a student from retaking this quiz because it's an assignment. You can close it out, you can make it available and unavailable, but if they can somehow get access to it still through some weird back channels that Canvas allows, they could still retake it. So this was something that my students ran into over the summer where they would go into it, and because it was a completion grade, and I don't care how many times you take it, but they would open it up again and only get halfway through, and then their points would drop back down to 0. So it gives them whatever the latest points they earned. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that was a big problem. So it didn't happen too many times because I told them beforehand, just do it once you've completed it, just do it once and stop. But that was kind of a issue. And so then what I did to allow them to use this problem set as a separate studying tool, I just loaded it up again as an ungraded assignment, and I closed out the graded one as well. So, there's ways to get around a lot of different things. And then one thing to note for ungraded assignments, and this is where I messed up multiple times before I figured out what I was doing, don't change any of your settings in an ungraded assignment, because if you change this display grade as a percentage, or if you change it to not graded, it'll disappear from your gradebook, but your external tool will also magically disappear. I don't know where it goes, I don't know why it disappears, but it does. And then you have to reload it again. It's magic. So don't do that. Alright, and then my advice would be to use your test student to the best of your ability and test all your graded assignments first, just to make sure that one, you can, that when you get all the answers correct, it shows up as 100% in the grade book. If you get everything wrong, it shows up as 0, and if you only, you get partial, it gives you the partial percentage, or even with the running through the slides too, if you're doing a complete through, 50 slides versus a percentage on an exam. So definitely recommend doing that, and it worked out. So I that whenever they needed to do this, they would, you know, there might be some technical glitches, and I was freaking out. But mostly it was fine. So, yeah, so they worked out pretty well. As is, I would like to take this the next step where we can use a little bit more of this quizzing, but right now I think I'm going to keep it as just a completed assignment that they do and have it be a completion grade as opposed to a percentage grade. But eventually, as this evolves and as we evolve, I would like to turn these into more interactive quizzes that they can use, because I like what we can do with Articulate versus the type of quizzing that you can do in Canvas. There's a lot of different types of questions in Canvas with the multi-select and the multiple choice, but there's not. I love drag and drop, and there's no like hotspot type questions, and so it allows, because this class is such a visual class, and being able to identify things in photographs or in different charts and images and stuff, that really helps us kind of work their brains a little bit more as opposed to a multiple choice exam. So my major issues, other than that whole ungraded assignment disappearing, was that this is something that I discovered as I was in the past month or so, but this, unfortunately, when you use the SCORM in Canvas, it doesn't work well with the Canvas app. So I don't know why. I was looking at the Canvas community questions to see if there was some kind of fix for it. And supposedly it works okay on an iPad, and I did try it on my iPad, but it didn't work for me as well, so I guess I didn't do the fix correctly. But the Canvas app, which is kind of iffy in my opinion, or thumbs down, it won't, like, what it'll do is it will, you go through, you launch it, and then it will give you a giant error message. It'll try to launch it. It'll, the front slide will show up, but it'll have a big error message over it. So unfortunately, this doesn't work. I tried it on my phone, which is Android, and it doesn't work with that as well. And based on what I saw in the community, in the discussion boards, it's a known issue, but they're kind of, we don't know what to do yet. So unfortunately, so that's a major issue, because I do, I like the idea of the students on the bus trying to go through their problem sets and stuff like that. It's helpful there since they're so mobile right now. So this was the biggest issue with this, I think. If you host these type of external tools on a website though, like WordPress, they work great. So what we end up doing is the med school has started this repository for all of the enduring learning objects. So there's videos in there, there's these kind of interactive things, and so the med school hosts that. I don't know if any departments or LNS is going to start hosting that kind of thing, but with WordPress is something that you can use to make your own website and post things on there as well.
If they're hosted on WordPress, can they get it to still talk back to Canvas? Yeah,
so in that case it's actually simpler, because all you do is link to the website. You just paste a link and you put your page or your assignment. So way easier. We put things in Canvas sometimes as kind of a backup to the repository, because we don't put things in the repository ourselves. We send the file to someone else to put in. So like last week, with Thanksgiving holiday, and there was construction over there, and the power was off on Friday. So we hosted everything on Canvas for the weekend for the students, and then redirected them to the repository once everything was going.
But the website version isn't going to feed grades back in the
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's the problem for that. So it will. They have some. Is it with the repository or was it with Canvas, where they're recording that they've clicked on the link and they've gone to it? Isn't that what they're doing now?
I think in Canvas only.
In Canvas only. So
I don't think repository does.
Okay. So it's where they now the way that they're making sure that they've looked at this tool is just to see whether they've actually moved to that external to the repository. All right. So yeah, so the other minor issues, you can't have to stop the multiple attempts on it. So, but this is great, you know, being able to do multiple attempts is great for if you just want a straight activity and you don't want a quiz. So that's pretty nice, but the quiz is not great. And then that whole ungraded thing out of the grade book. So you just need to, I like to group the assignments then so that we can say, okay, this block of assignments are definitely, I label them as these are ungraded, these are optional items, or these are study items, or something like that. So that it shows up in the grade book and they don't have to worry about that. Okay. So, and then I was wondering from academic technology whether they thought that SCORM was better, because I know you can use iframe to put like Google and stuff into it. Do you think that that works better? I know it's not going to talk to the grade book.
So this is it's sort of a fun thing. You can do an iframe inside Canvas, right? But depending on how you set up your articulate, Canvas is this, the screen is this big, but then you've got the column on that side, you've got the column on this side, so now it's this big, but then you've got the menu column as well, so now it's this big. So now you've got this thing that you designed for oftentimes you design for a laptop type screen, and it's getting crushed down to this size. Can they read it at this size? Does it make sense at this size? It doesn't scale well.
Okay.
What I've seen, and that I've seen only this much.
Okay.
But
okay.
I don't know. Does anyone else have thoughts on this, Wayne?
Like you're talking about the problem of when you iframe something, a file, you'll put you'll have a menu. You have the full screen within the full screen. You can see a full screen within the iframe, right? You can get it to work where it's just the screen, the articulate document itself.
It opens it up in a new tab?
No, it will open it up with the iframe, but you have to go through the files and find file numbers and then link those in. And I can't walk you through it right now because I don't have the right I don't have the right access to the right course to do that right now. But I've done it, and I've seen it other people do it as well. That you can do these things where you don't have to have a menu within a menu. You can just get the documents you want.
Okay.
And so that you have to go to the file menu, the file system in Canvas. And when you iframe, you have to iframe. You have to find the numbers. So you have to use a little bit of HTML to do it. And it's not too hard once you know the process, but you can do it. So you just have to fiddle with it.
Ian, you're nodding. You know how to do this as well. Okay.
I'm just like, it makes sense, but I don't know how to do it.
And I wondered, do those links still hold if you copy it into a new course the next semester?
Because you're saving the file number, and that file number, I've seen it, I've done it. Like the file number stays with it. So it does work as you cross. So I've done it, and I just feel like every time I say this, I always feel bad. And it was a trick that somebody from the Division of Continuing Studies showed me at a Comets or ITG in the summer. And it was really elegant how she did it. So
We will try to track that down and put it in the activity sheet.
Yeah. But that does raise my question as well. You say you're only, first of all, why can't you only put it in an assignment in particular?
So when you load something as a SCORM, it automatically ends up as an assignment. That's the only thing you can load it as. You can't load it as a page or a quiz or anything else.
And you can't go into the HTML side and pull that out and put it into like put it someplace else.
Well, I don't know.
Sure, I was thinking you link out to it in the repository, and that could just be a learning activity and not be great. I didn't know what to do. So you kind of store it somewhere else. You want to store it somewhere
Okay.
Yeah, and so we've done things like that where we've made an assignment or just a page where we have the links out to the repository.
Oh, okay, cool. And then also, how do you track the they're clicking on what on each page? How do you track that data? The non-score data, the they get an 85% on this.
Right.
How do you capture the other data? Like they clicked on all the pages, or they did.
Yeah. So that's in the amount of time, or the amount of time that they've taken on, if they stayed on that page, which Canvas will give you when you go into the personal settings.
Okay.
So
and after that pops up that they clicked on all the pages.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty basic, it seems like.
Yeah, and the as far as the output that I've gotten, and I don't know, this was one thing that D2L marginally has over Canvas, is that when I had, I could get an output of their answers. So they can always get, you can set, if you have a quiz, they can always, you can set it so they can review all their slides and see all their answers anyway, but I don't see that, unfortunately, I just see their score. So D2L would give you a massive text file of what they answered. So if I would have like fill in the blanks and multiple choice, and so it would give me that so I could actually read through their assignments, which is why this is now a completion assignment as opposed to a graded assignment, because I can't see their fill in the blank answers anymore, right, to give them comments and stuff, unfortunately. So that's where in the tool, what I changed with the tool is I have huge feedback slides after each one of their fill in the blank answers that they could use to go back and review. So that's where D2L works better, that you get that output. I don't know if Tin Can would allow you to do that or not, or any future iterations of SCORM, but yeah, that was a big downside too, which I forgot. Yep.
So I was trying to compare Articulate and Office Mix while you were talking, and it sounds like Office Mix is not SCORM, it's LTI, instead Learning Tool Interoperability. I've never used either. Microsoft claims LTI is compatible with Canvas. Does anybody have experience with that? Is anybody able to like throw a couple of pros and cons for one way versus Office Mix is free, which is the major pro of Office Mix.
Yeah. Office Mix is actually going away.
Is it going away entirely?
Yeah, I think Microsoft is going to discontinue. Because we actually created a bunch of topics in the Office Mix this year, and I think you had it till next May or something to use it.
Okay.
So this is actually, this brings up this is a really good topic to talk about, and that is sort of the danger and flightiness of these tools. SCORM's been around for 20 years, although it's weird to me that the latest version is the 2004 version, right? It's not 2004.
Right, yeah, I wonder if they were developing Tin Can or something to take over for it now, but I don't know.
And the idea of having like a tool that plays well with all these other tools is great. That's the big thing with open source type materials and such. But yeah, then you have these sort of integrations that are very proprietary. Articulate, $500. Is it a year or is it per version? And then how long does that version last before it needs to be updated? And then you got to go through and is it backwards compatible with what you did? And do you need to go through your content? How often do you guys go through your content to update it? I mean, you've been working on this now for several years.
Well, by semester. We always have, our classes are slightly different than one. So we teach the med students and the physician assistant students and the occupational and physical therapy students. So they all need a slightly different amount of information. So we go in and we make versions for each of those groups. We can use a lot of the same stuff, but some of them don't need to know certain things. So yeah, so we make new content for each group.
All right. And you've been doing this for 4 years, 5, 6 years?
Well, with Canvas, we started 3, yeah.
But they're never reposted for the next class identically. They're always edited.
And to your point about things changing, Storyline is in the 3rd version. Storyline 3, that's the one you buy and you have it resident on your computer.
Right.
But then there's Storyline 360, which is what they're promoting, which is of course the yearly subscription model, which is $1,000 a year. Maybe less for academics, but not less enough. And Storyline 3 is heavily Flash dependent, and we're a little about that. I know. So we're a little concerned that when Flash goes away, I don't know, think about it.
And Storyline doesn't support hotspots.
No, it doesn't.
Oh wait, I thought I had read
Storyline does. Like Canvas does it. There's no, you don't have that as an option.
And do you know if the new quizzing tool in Canvas is going to support that? Anyone decide that?
The other problem is if you have Storyline and want to transition to 360, you can't. I mean, you can't easily. You basically need to start from scratch. You can't import a Storyline file into Articulate 360, which it made the decision very easy, besides the money, to stick with Storyline 3 as long as they keep updating and supporting that, which probably won't be long, and then we'll be forced to go to whatever year. So there's So are you going from version 1 to 360?
My understanding is that Adobe is moving, or has almost entirely moved away from Flash products.
And
Yeah,
three
they
for
recognize the
360s and
Flash,
two.
even though they created it, it's going away.
Oh,
They actually fixed a bunch of bugs that I had.
Wait, Julie has a.
No, I have another question, side note. On your slide that has all the pretty images of the videos and everything, your the screen has that pretty red border and there's like the UW. Did you guys create that in Storyline?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
in the player you can change it's not obvious in any way how you change it. That is the problem with Storyline, but you can set whatever you want your player to look like.
That's really nice.
Yeah, because we had to work with, we were given templates that we were supposed to have, but the template was so big that it took up a lot of room. So when I think at least you discovered that you could change the color in there, like, well, it looks like the templates. We don't need the templates. So.
Have any of you worked with both Captivate and Storyline? And are willing to talk about the differences?
I actually, I prefer Articulate Storyline. I actually taught the Captivate class on campus here for a few years. Well, so did Cliff, right? Several of us have done that.
You do a better job than I did.
Well, and it, so it's still a free tool for campus because we have a site license, but it's not as intuitive. It has pretty much a lot of the same functionality. I don't find it anywhere near as user friendly. Also, just in terms of the Articulate community, and Megan mentioned that if you want to find out anything about how to do something in Storyline, you can just Google it and it'll bring up the Articulate community, and there's a huge community and a lot of support. Our group also, we use both tools and more, but if you have something that gets really buggy or there's something that you can't resolve, their tech support is really good, and you can actually go into just a text section with them, or you can upload a file that's got some sort of a glitch, and they'll fix it, or they'll tell you what the problem is. So I just find the support a whole lot better on the Storyline side than for Captivate.
I've sent tons of files to them that had like little bugs in them, because we get pretty big files, and within less than 2 days, they'll have it sent back to me fixed. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so it's not a campus supported tool, but the Articulate community is really good.
So expensive, but nice.
Yeah, there you go.
I also had a little bit different experience. I was just telling these two that I was able to import some Storyline 2 content into Articulate Storyline 360, and it worked fine for me. And it fixed some text and font issues that I was having in the player, in the narration tab. So I had a different experience in being able to import it.
Good. And yeah, I know that they're pushing that subscription models, as a lot of companies are now moving away from the physical app as Adobe. Are there any people who've had experiences with other types of SCORM objects and could speak to that? This is really a challenge for us as we're putting together the activity sheet. How do we do an activity sheet about an interoperability sort of middle thing without talking about Articulate, which we've had a lab on, and there's a link to it. If you're interested in this, or Captivate, or things like that. So the hands-on section today is kind of light, unless you're really geeky, which, bless you. If you're going to have things hosted outside on WordPress, instead of using Articulate Storyline, there are other tools available that will also, H5P, for example, supports hotspots and a lot of interactive quizzing in slides and videos and things like that. And we've got at least one lab on H5P that you can look back on that we didn't include. But it is not SCORM interactive, or it's not SCORM compatible yet. I was just on their website, and there's a discussion like, oh, will this be SCORM compatible soon? And this was in 2014. H5P was like, yeah, it's a high priority for us. Well, here it is, 3 years later, and it's still not SCORM compatible. They did mention the Tin Can or X API, I think it's called, and these needs that people are coming up with of, I've got this very rich content, Canvas doesn't do it, how do I do this? We've got a working group on that that's looking at articulate, storyline, and Captivate, and several other tools. I know H5P, Pressbooks is one of these tools that's emerging as a possibility. I'm not sure which one they ended up going with or where they were at without I'm looking at.
I think they're writing a report that was due this month, but as far as I know, yeah, I don't think there's been a recommendation yet.
Okay.
So, November?
Sorry, December.
December, okay.
So yeah,
And,
we're
committee,
trying to
so
wait.
a whole lot about it.
But let me put a question back to you all. What would you like to see?
A tool that does everything.
Yeah.
And it's free.
And it's free, yes.
It's pretty easy to learn. It goes from here to here. Good.
I would say like an H5P that has the same capabilities as SCORM as far as communicating with gradebook and, you know, and that way you have this sort of online access to the content and you can manipulate it. You don't have to download anything to your computer, you don't have to download a zip file, you don't have to email files or save files, you know, like there's none of that, it's all just sort of in the cloud. That would be, I think that's like, that would be awesome.
And yet it connects with Canvas
Yeah.
with assessment, things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah. And I know that the Kaltura in-video quizzing tool did that for a while, but now it's turned off because it has issues. So it doesn't do that right now. How many of you have created H5P content, even as of playing with? Those of you who created H5P content and storyline content, what do you talk to me about the differences?
Well, we have our H5. Have you put any in Canvas yet, H5P? But we use our other external tools is Pressbooks, which I want to talk about because Pressbooks is really awesome. We have, which at least spearheaded for us there. We make ebooks in them, and then you can put H5P quizzing throughout the book, which is great for breaking up whatever reading you have to help them quiz and review and everything. So if Pressbooks and H5P can talk to Canvas, that would be awesome.
So one thing that we've done with, and we've played around with H5P is actually putting it in the HTML part of quizzes. So with the quiz question itself, you can embed an H5P interaction, and then immediately ask a question based on that interaction. And it's, they click on the fun interactive element, and then basically you say, all right, now in the less fun version, let's answer the same quiz question that you just answered, basically. And that's a way to get the first step, maybe, of getting that interactive stuff and the quiz stuff, although it's not as beautiful as it should be.
I think for the quizzing parts, the articulate ability to do like a lot of different free form types of questions is much, much greater than an H5P. You can design you can just go completely on the free form question. You don't have to follow everyone else's format, which I kind of check against the categories of questions sometimes.
Give me an example of your own freeform.
Sure. So for our stuff, we're anatomists, so we're very image based. So we like to be able to identify things on an image, and you can make a completely free form, easy to make hotspot picture. Tell me which one of these things is this structure, and it's easy to make like multiple captures of feedback. And you click on this, and no, that's not right. So this, and then it just gets. You can do a lot more with articulate. Interactive.
Yeah, sure, $1,000.
Exactly.
Free.
So I'm kind of just kind of curious to know what everyone thinks of. You're using this primarily for formative assessments, so just quizzes. I mean, is there any sort of, do you want to use this as more like high stakes type of assessments?
If it could talk to Canvas a little bit more easily, then I'd be open to it, but right now it can't be. At the level we're at right now, it's definitely.
So then you have follow-ups to that. Are the students doing it sort of, do they like it? Do they blow it off? Okay.
Yeah, we've had really great feedback.
The development time put into it, and I figure you want a good return on that investment. I mean, this is, I work colleges online, so it's like if we put all this upfront time into developing stuff, and it ends up just sort of falling through the cracks, then it's so easy to fall back on to publish your materials or the standard old quiz in the LMS.
Yeah, no, we've had one of and with that, with the repository, we don't really call them enduring learning. The principal wanted it to be something that the students who, when they're in their first year, they need to learn, but then when they're studying for the boards exams, they could come back to it. But we're always updating them, so they're evolving, right? So we call them evolving learning topics now. So.
Were you able to put the storyline content into Pressbooks?
No.
Okay.
No, but I'm not sure. I think there might be a way to do that.
I think there might be.
Yeah. Oh. I just read something about that yesterday, but now I can't get that fact out from where I read it in my brain. But yeah, that would be an interesting combo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any other questions, things that you hoped to find out about today? That you haven't yet? I've not found anything else.
So I just wanted to say on the activity sheet, there are instructions for adding SCORM. So if you've never added any navigation content in your Canvas course before, there's instructions for how to add SCORM to your Canvas course. And then Jennifer actually found a free SCORM site where you can create SCORM content. So there's instructions if you want to just test it out and see what it looks like. You can create some free SCORM content and you can practice uploading it to your course. Definitely do that in a sandbox. So.
Will it work long term? The free SCORM?
I don't know. It's through a website called SCORM Cloud. So
we've used that for testing, and they just give you, a little bit of storage, so you can't host a whole lot of stuff there unless you pay for subscription. But it's actually, and I just found out about it a few months ago. It's a great place to upload content and test your SCORM content because it'll tell you if it fails or if it passes SCORM before you actually, post it somewhere that has maybe more of a high stakes.
Does it get into the different types of SCORM? Or the different types, the SCORM 1.2, 2004, and like the different levels?
I think I was using the 1.2 because that's what that customer needed, and I don't recall exactly what the report gave me back. I know I failed it initially, and then I had to go back in and tweak some settings, republish it, and upload it.
Yeah.
So it gave me some details, but I can't recall off the top of my head.
This is definitely not a, I think I'll try to do this for my first next month type of thing. This is a start small, test it out, iterate, eventually build up something as you become more of an expert with it. You guys have been working on it for 3 years or so. You're still running into issues. It's not ever going to be, maybe it's a bit easy. So right now it's not.
so worth it though. It looks great. That's just awesome.
I like those.
All right. If there are no other questions, please let me thank Meghan for coming in